Welcome back. Namibia's research and innovation community is celebrating a major milestone. The Chief Executive Officer of the National Commission on Research, Science and Technology, Professor Anicia has been elected as the next president of the Science Granting Council's Initiative Alliance for Sub-Saharan Africa. Professor Peters will officially assume the presidency in September 2026, placing Namibia at the forefront of efforts to strengthen research, funding systems, scientific collaboration, and innovation across the region. As part of this leadership role, Namibia will also host the SGCI All Partners meeting in Windhoek, bringing together partners from across Africa and beyond to discuss the future of science and research development on the continent. Professor Peter now joins us to share more about this achievement and what it means for Namibia and the broader African research community. Professor Peters, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Nina, for having me, and good evening also to all of the viewers from the rainy Kitima Mulilo.
Oh, we're so jealous. Professor Peters, congratulations on your election as president of the SGCI Alliance. What does this recognition, of course, mean to you personally and perhaps in the broader context for Namibia's research and innovation sector?
You know, it was summed up actually in a research conference, dissemination conference that we had recently in Windhoek, that was organized in conjunction with the European Union, the Horizon Euro program, and Eurorux Africa, which essentially it's funders. And they had said that Namibia was a little bit invisible on the scene in terms of research funders, and in terms of being recognized. And now with this presidency, it will actually propel us to become more visible. And that means that we are also able to attract much more funding, external funding for our researchers. We are already attracting such funding from the science granting councils. And over the past year, we've seen an increase and an interest from other external funders to sort of fund research within Namibia. And we also see that the research that we are funding are really making an impact.
Well, for our viewers watching this evening, Professor, who may not be familiar with the initiative, just perhaps explain the role of the Science Granting Council's initiative and why it's important for research development in Africa.
So the Science Granting Council's initiative consists out of, at the moment, 20 councils across Africa. That is commissions like ourselves, because NCRST is the research funder for Namibia, the NRF in South Africa, the NRF in Ghana, the NRF in Kenya, Ethiopia, Rwanda, etc. So there are 20 of us spanning from Southern Africa across West and East Africa. And this partnership is then together with the IDRC of Canada, who's a funder. The NRF of South Africa funds us. Then from the UK, we are receiving funding, as well as from Norway. And Germany. So these funders are coming together, putting money in a pot, and then saying that we would like to fund impactful research to solve the challenges within African countries. And we have been giving out research grants. So within Namibia, we have given out several research grants over the past year. The previous year, we've also given out 6 research grants. And those research grants mostly go to UNAM and to NUST researchers there. But it is also open to all registered research institutions of the NCRST. In the past, we had funded, for instance, some of the research institutions such as Gogabep within Namibia. This funding is essentially to strengthen the ability of research funders like NCRST to be able to fund research in the country, because we oftentimes find that African research funders in particular do not have enough money, even though we've said that we will contribute at least 1% of our GDPs to research and development. And therefore, this is an effort to sort of strengthen that ability. Research is important, not only to change impact on the ground, for communities like we're working in Rundu, in Groothoek, in Ketima Mulilo, in all over the country. We are funding research that is making an impact, but it's also important to have a policy advisory function. So our research should inform the policies that the government is looking at implementing.
As I mentioned earlier, Namibia will be hosting the SGCAI All Partners meeting later this year here in Windhoek. But talk to us about the significance of this gathering, Professor.
This is quite a big deal because we were in a very competitive round with Rwanda and with Ethiopia, where we had to compete to sort of host it. And it hasn't been hosted in Namibia. It has been hosted in South Africa and in Botswana in terms of Southern Africa. So for us to have actually been awarded, well, it was an election, so we came out as the top country where the hosting will take place. It means that we will be having not only the 20 councils from across Africa, but we will also have a number of external funders, and we oftentimes have also researchers from all over the continent collect together in Namibia for one entire week. We plan to have it's an opportunity, for instance, to showcase what you have in the country, to showcase your research, to showcase some of the interesting projects that they can look at. And remember that funders are always looking at what can I fund next. We've seen that in other countries where we've had this meeting, it was very impactful, and we have representation from the highest levels within the country who come to the meeting. At the same time, also, you do a lot of advertisement for the country itself. One of the countries that we were in, for instance, they would partner not only with ministries, but they would also partner with cities to say, oh, it's, the city of Windhoek, it's the town of Swakopmund who will be hosting, and receiving all of the delegates. We could also take them to museums. So we will be looking at many of the side events that we can have together with this meeting. There will be approximately close to 200 people attending. But then that would exclude all of your local researchers that we will most definitely also invite to be part of that week. What we're planning is to have them in Windhoek, but then they've also requested to go to the coast and to see some of our projects along the coast and speak to researchers there as well. So we are definitely planning for a very impactful week, and we want it to be memorable. We don't want to be referring to when the meeting was there or there. We want to refer to when the meeting was in Namibia.
Well, Professor, looking ahead to when you officially, assume the presidency in September, what will be some of your key priorities for the SGCI Alliance?
Well, one of the priorities for us is to see how can we expand. There are so many countries in Africa who are not yet part of the SGCI forum. So this is one thing that we will be actively looking at. The second thing that we're looking at is we got now the 42 million USD in terms of co-funding from our funders. But we as research councils have to be able to attract money as well, because it is in terms of co-financing. So to strengthen that pot that's coming in, Also, we would like to strengthen more of the African sort of heads. They call us hawks. It means head of research councils. So the CEOs, to be able to participate more in the SGCI, because up to now we had it mostly that the funders were determining what are our priorities, what are we going to fund next. And so for us, one of the big agenda items is we are determining what we are funding, what areas we are declaring as our priorities, and we basically take ownership of funding initiatives as well as the impact that we are leaving in our communities. And I definitely want to be remembered as somebody who had, been a catalyst in terms of ensuring that research is truly impactful and that you can feel its effects on the ground.
Well, on that note, Professor, just in closing, what message is it that you'd like to leave with Namibians tonight about the importance of investing, in research, science and innovation for the country's future development?
If we look at many of the countries, and I'm not even going outside, I'm just going to Africa, we see that there are many national research facilities where, for instance, the SGCI had been funding some of the projects. And those projects had made some of the countries, in terms of upscaling and innovation, self-sufficient in terms of what they were doing in those research projects. I can mention many. And for Namibia, I would like to leave it that we would like to see as an SGCI that the research that we're bringing out is the next frontier towards achieving all of the goals that Her Excellency, our president, is always talking about. But whatever we do, whatever we achieve, whatever we decide on next, whatever reforms we are bringing in, needs to be informed by research. Thank you.
Professor, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and congratulations once again. Thank you so much for always putting Namibia right on the map where it belongs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Good night.
That was Professor Anicia Peters, the CEO of the NCRST, speaking to us about her election as the next president of the Science Granting Council's Initiative Alliance for Sub-Saharan Africa. Definitely a win, not only for Namibia, but the region at large. We'll be back after this